Silent Separation by Guman, Chapter 11.2. Yin Hui. Mosheng was stuttered for a moment and then shook her head and said, "No, I do not want to go back, probably because I'm weak. Yin Hui, in a foreign country, it is natural that I'm alone like everyone else who lives in a foreign country. But if I return home and is still alone, that would be very sad." She looked down and did not say anything farther. When they were leaving the airport, Mosheng said to Ying Hui, "I have something to talk to you about." Ying Hui certainly knew what she wanted to discuss, so he said immediately, "By chance, I need your help with something." Ying Hui's parents planned to visit him in the US for 1 month, mostly because he accidentally said that he had married. Ying Hui wanted Mosheng to pretend to be a married couple when meeting his parents. The timing was just right. Mosheng has already completed her studies, so she could leave Ant City by any time. Ying Hui's company was operating smoothly, so he had more time as well. The first thing Mosheng did after moving to California was to look for a job, but she was often left frustrated because she was Chinese and also a woman. Ying Hui wanted to use his contact to help her, but Mosheng had refused. "Ying Hui, you have helped me so much already, so I cannot always rely on you." Ying Hui remembered Mosheng has never accepted any financial help from him. Then he also recalled what his ex-girlfriend had said to him when they were breaking up. He couldn't help but sigh with sorrow. Seeing him looking pensive, Mosheng asked Ying Hui, "What are you thinking?" Ying Hui smiled and said, "Nothing. I'm merely trying to understand the word pride once again." Mosheng was puzzled and looked quizzically at him but did not question farther. Valentine's Day came before the day of Ying Hui's parents' visit, but Ying Hui was not a romantic person. Mosheng also did not think anything of it, so in the end nothing special happened that day. On the evening of Valentine's Day, Ying Hui was in the study upstairs involved in an international call. When he walked downstairs, he saw Mosheng sitting on the sofa, her head propped up in one hand, a laptop on her knees, completely unaware of his presence. From his point of view, he saw tears at the corner of Mosheng's eyes. Thinking that she was watching a sad movie, he walked closer to take a look. It was only an ordinary website, and it was the SOSO search page he has known too well. The key word in the search was a name he has never heard of before: Yichen. When Mosheng discovered him, she quickly turned around. It was too late to wipe away the tears on her cheek. She closed the laptop, stood up, stared downward at her toes, and looked a little embarrassed. Ying Hui understood immediately. Suddenly he did not know what else to say. Mosheng looked up at him. Her eyes were exceptionally clear from the tears. Ying Hui clearly saw the sorrow in her eyes. "Ying Hui, have you ever loved anyone?" she asked him. Ying Hui thought carefully before answering. "When I was at C University, I had a girlfriend who is very smart and also very beautiful. My ex-boyfriend is also very outstanding," Mosheng replied in a low voice. "Oh," Ying Hui tried to smile. "Your ex-boyfriend isn't as lucky as me. After all, he was now just someone from your past only." Mosheng misunderstood his words completely. She probably thought Ying Hui meant her ex-boyfriend was unlucky because he had chose her, so she felt upset and replied, "I'm not so bad." Ying Hui did not explain himself. He quickly walked up to his study, but has no mood to do anything else. Having seen that name, it seems as if he began to see the name everywhere else. From that day onward, from time to time, Mosheng will absent-mindedly call that name Yichen. When Mosheng was inexplicably feeling happy, she'll smile and call Yichen. And when Mosheng was suddenly feeling lonely, she'll call Yichen. Mosheng began to frequently mention that name to Ying Hui, as if she finally found someone to talk to about that person. That person is very intelligent. That person is very capable. Of course, Ying Hui was impatient. But when he saw the grievance and loneliness in her eyes whenever she mentioned that person, he did not have the heart to be impatient. His heart also felt a kind of unknown pain. Previously, when Ying Hui knew Mushan thought of him as a brother figure, he was not bothered. It was because he was confident that no one more outstanding than him will appear in her life, so he'll take it slowly. However, that feeling has now gone, as he can clearly feel a frozen wall was erected in Mushan's heart. That frozen wall will block out all the ambiguous stuff. Perhaps all he can ever be is a brother figure only. Ying Hui began to feel impatient. What happened that night, he did not know if it was from his suppressed emotion or a monumental loss of control. That day, he drank a lot while socializing outside and was drunk when he arrived home. Mushan took care of him in a ferry. Ying Hui did not know if he was drunk or sobered. If drunk, how could he still remember all the detail clearly? If sobered, why did he not range in his emotion like before? Seemingly half drunk, half sober, he pressed himself on top of Mushan. When he woke up, it was already morning. The moment he regained his consciousness, he rushed downstairs. The lights were not on in the living room, which was in complete darkness. He vaguely saw Mushan sitting on the sofa, 2 arms hugging her knees and her head bent down. Ying Hui felt he had seen this mentioned somewhere before, that when people suffered great harm, they would subconsciously sit in that position, like a baby in the mother's womb, because of the lack of a sense of security. His hands wanted to turn on the light switch but stopped himself. Mushan suddenly spoke in a weak voice. "Ying Hui, did you pretend I'm her?" Ying Hui was dazed for a moment before he realized who the she Mushan referred to. It was his ex-girlfriend. He seemed to mention about his ex-girlfriend once, and he could not remember what he had said. She probably thought he still think of her, still love his ex-girlfriend. "Mushan, did you think everyone is like you, always remembering the past?" Ying Hui smiled bitterly. He realized that Mushan put him in an interesting dilemma. If he had said yes, he would not be able to confess his true feeling. Maybe their relationship would never be able to progress farther. And if he had said no, he would be admitting to sexual assault. Even though an unsuccessful attempt, seeing the trust in Mushan's eye, Ying Hui decided to close his eyes and not answer instead. Let her find the answer which can comfort her the most. Actually, after that incident, Mushan could not calmly live together with Ying Hui anymore. When Mushan said she wanted to move out, Ying Hui said, "Mushan, return home and see what has happened." Mushan stared at him in shock. "You can't be an ostrich forever. Return home and see what has happened. If the weather there is sunny and nice, then you stay there. If the weather there is raining and bleak, then you quickly come back. Completely forget that place, completely forget that person." At the airport, Ying Hui said goodbye to Mushan, who was no longer even his wife in name only. He looked at the plane ascending into the clouds, loneliness filling every corner of his body. Did she understand what he had said when they parted just now? In certain things, she could be surprisingly slow. If you are not returning to the U.S., it is best if you temporarily don't keep in touch with each other, he had told her before she boarded the plane. Did he still have a chance? Perhaps. Perhaps that man called Yichen has already fallen in love with someone else. In this world, how many people are as foolish as Zhao Mosheng? The fragrance of the tea was rising up through the air. The years were long, but only a few hours were used to finish talking about them. So there was more than one person, Ying Hui finally said. Sometimes she's surprisingly slow. Ying Hui looked up and sighed. Things of the world can be so strange, because I didn't expect you'll be the only person I can talk to on these matters. Yichen did not speak. After finishing smoking his cigarette, he picked up his coat. "Mr. Yin, it's late, so I'll leave first." "Why are you in such a hurry?" Yichen paused. "Mushan is drunk, so I'm a bit worried." Ying Hui laughed out loud. "Mr. He, are you showing off you're the winner in front of the loser?" Yichen did not turn around and walked out of the tea shop. When he pushed open the door, a blast of cold air hit him in the face. Yichen breathed in deeply. His hands were fist hard to the point that the blood vessels stood out. It was a good while before he gradually relaxed his hands. When Yichen arrived home, it was already 2 o'clock in the morning. Mushan slept like a good child when drunk, her body wrapped in the quilt in the exact position when Yichen left her. Yichen gently took off his shoes, got into bed and pulled Mushan into his embrace. She moved slightly to get used to her new position and frowned. Yichen loosened his embrace and her eyebrows started to relax. The sweet smell of Mushan's hair filled the air around him. Yichen whispered, "I won't let you drink in the future." She did not protest and still slept soundly. Yichen could not sleep and stayed awake until 4-something in the morning. He sighed, got up, and went to the study room. There was still a lot of work to be done. In fact, tomorrow. No, it was already the next day. He had not finished preparing the case for the court hearing in the morning. For Yichen, this was really a rare experience, doing things at the last minute. He was busy working until the first ray of the morning sunrise. Yichen closed his tired eyes and massaged his brows. When he opened his eyes again, he saw Mushan standing at the doorway looking at him. "Yichen, you didn't sleep at all?" Mushan asked and bit her lips. Yichen knew very well that that was her habit when she felt nervous. "Come here," he beckoned. When she walked closer, Yichen pulled her into his arms as she sat on his lap. "You're awake? People who are drunk don't normally sleep." Really? Mushan was probably confused by Yichen's attitude, so she asked innocently, "Then what should I do?" "Do something meaningful." While talking, he lowered his head and kissed her soft lips. Mushan grasped her ear and laid her head on his arm. After a moment of silence, Yichen tells her, "Last night I met with Ying Hui." Mushan suddenly froze in his embrace. "He told me someone searched my name on SOSO webpage. I wanted to ask that someone, what does she find?" Mushan stayed silent as Yichen continued talking. "I searched your name and found out that you won an award in photography, but you never told me. It's just a little known award. Besides, you did not ask me," Mushan said softly. Yichen sighed and held her tighter. "I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Mushan, tell me now, what have you done?" "In the US? Yes." Mushan had never seen before a Yichen who's so gentle that not even at the university 7 years ago, when the relationship was at its best, could compare. A soft and gentle inquiry easily opened the floodgate to the grievance she suffered all these years. Mushan began to talk about those things that she experienced in the US. When she first arrived in the US, she did not know English well, till she could not understand the street signs and got lost. She talked about how she hated to study English, those strange habits of Americans, and also those awful foods. She focused on describing how awful a particular brand of instant noodle tastes. "Then why didn't you eat something else? Other foods are expensive, as at that time I was very poor." "Your father didn't give you money?" This was the first time Yichen spoke of Mushan's father with such gentle tone. Mushan looked at his expression before continuing to say, "Yes, my father gave me a large sum of money. At first I was shocked, but later I found out about what happened from the newspaper, so I sent the money back to the embassy." "Did the embassy write you a letter of appreciation?" "I didn't put my name on it. I sent it when there was a call for Chinese people to donate. In fact, there was nothing noble about my intention. It's just that I could not bring myself to use those money, which were earned by the sacrifice of life. Furthermore, I also deceived myself into thinking without those money, my dad wouldn't have died. Everything would still be fine, like nothing happened." "Mushan, you're so smart. What else?" And Mushan thought one day she would tell Yichen about these things, but she never thought it would be like this. She didn't feel burdened. It was as if she was chatting about something ordinary. Those painful experiences seemed to have disappeared overnight. They gradually stopped talking. The day had brightened completely. "Yichen, surprisingly, I don't feel sad at all. I thought it would be very difficult to talk about these matters." Yichen said quietly, "Because you have me now." Mushan did not say anything as she laid her head on his chest without any movement. A long time later, Yichen thought she had fallen asleep. Gradually, he felt wetness on his chest. It was already Monday and they have to go to work in the morning. This was the first time Yichen went to battle unprepared. In the court, he discovered that the prosecutor and the judge seems more muddy than him. Hence, everyone stayed muddy until the court session finished and the case would be heard the next time. When the family of the defendant saw the dark circles under Yichen's eyes, clearly from the lack of sleep, they were deeply moved because they thought he had exhausted himself for the case. They thanked him over and over again, making Yichen uncertain whether to laugh or cry.